Oh, fantasy football. The game where Cam Ward can outscore Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson combined. Where Jonathan Taylor can get outscored by stud running backs like Tyron Tracy, Kareem Hunt, Kenneth Gainwell, just to name a few. Where Stephon Diggs can score the same amount of points as Devontae Walker. And if you don't know who Devontae Walker is, he's a random wide receiver for the Ravens. Oh, and of course, Pat Freiermuth, who everybody started last week against the Bengals and he busted, puts up a top 10 week this week because, of course. Yep, this just proves once again that fantasy football is absolute pain, but somehow we keep coming back for more. We love this crazy game of ours. So I'm going to break down some players that I am absolutely panicked about right now. These aren't just guys who had bad games in week 12 because it happens, right? It happens. These are guys I am worried about either because they've had a stretch of bad games here or their usage is trending in the wrong direction or maybe both. And before I jump into that list, let's quickly go over the guys I am not panicked about, and you shouldn't be either, starting with Josh Allen. Okay, maybe we shouldn't have started Josh Allen against the Houston Texans, but this is Josh Allen. Please, I'm begging you, put Josh Allen in your lineup next week, please. And same with Jonathan Taylor. Look, it was a tough matchup, but I don't understand. Like, the Colts were winning this game pretty comfortably for most of the game, and they weren't running the ball with Jonathan Taylor. I don't know why that happened, but look, I'm not going to panic on Jonathan Taylor here. And same with Nico Collins. He had been great for 3 straight games prior to this week. CJ Stroud should be back. Nico Collins should be better. And I know I already talked about Stephon Diggs. Did not go off against this Bengals defense here. But look, the Bengals actually are so bad against running backs and tight ends that wide receivers don't really do a lot against them. Stephon Diggs has been great, for about a month here. Like, I'm not panicking on Stephon Diggs. And same with Brock Bowers. I am not panicking on Brock Bowers here. Sure, he has not lived up to that second round ADP, but he still has tremendous weekly upside. Please keep Brock Bowers locked into your lineups at tight end. All right, but now let's get into the guys I am worried about heading into week 12, and I can't believe I got to talk about Lamar Jackson. This has got to be the first time I've ever talked about Lamar Jackson, like other than maybe an injury. Like, what is going on here with Lamar Jackson? Over the last 3 games, hasn't even reached 17 points, and now he's got 2 straight with less than 10 fantasy points. This is not what you drafted Lamar Jackson for. You spent a 3rd round pick on a QB to give you that elite 20 plus fantasy production week in and week out, and you just haven't gotten it from him. But what's really concerning to me here is the rushing, or should I say the lack of rushing, because he has not had 50 yards rushing since he's come back from that injury. And in 3 of the last 4 games, he's had 11 or fewer rushing yards. That is not going to get it done for Lamar Jackson. We need that rushing upside. Look, Lamar Jackson's a good thrower of the football. He's not one of these guys like Justin Fields that has to run the ball, but that's what elevates him from a good QB to an elite fantasy QB. If we're not getting that rushing, we're not getting that elite fantasy QB. Now, I'm not saying bench Lamar Jackson. I certainly think there are going to be quarterbacks I will like more than Lamar Jackson. I doubt we're going to call him a must start anymore after what we've seen lately. But that being said, there are still plenty of quarterbacks I will not start over Lamar Jackson. So certainly getting nervous here. If you've got Lamar Jackson, I'm sure you're nervous. Definitely worried about him right now. Let's hope, he gets healthier. He starts running more because that's what we need. And then by extension, this has hurt Zay Flowers. Look, Zay Flowers has been fine this year. He's scored at least 11 fantasy points in all but 2 games. And in those other 2 games, he's only gone below 8 fantasy points 1 time. But we need upside. We're not here for 11 fantasy points. We can find 11 fantasy points on the waiver wire almost every single week. We need upside. And with Lamar playing like this, we're not getting that upside. So again, right, Lamar dragging down Zay Flowers here. We got to hope it gets better for both Lamar and Zay Flowers. But right now, with what we've seen really since Lamar's come back from injury, you got to be nervous. And another name I just cannot believe is on this list, CeeDee Lamb. What? How is CeeDee Lamb on the panic video? Well, CeeDee Lamb's on the panic video. Now, I will say, CeeDee Lamb has not been bad. CeeDee Lamb has not been a bust. But he's only given you 2 20-point games all year this year. We didn't draft CeeDee Lamb just to be good, right? And he's been good. He gives you a high floor. But that's not where we spent a top 5, maybe a top 3, maybe for some of you a top 2 pick on CeeDee Lamb. Not to just give us 2 20-point games and then give us a decent floor every single week. And what's more concerning here is the emergence of George Pickens. George Pickens has been a monster this year. Even with CD back, he still has been a monster. And this is hurting CD because CD is not just getting force-fed a bazillion targets every single week because the Cowboys actually have another weapon now. Now, I will say CD did drop a touchdown late in that game, but even with that touchdown, it would have just been another a good game for CD, but not a great game. Again, we didn't spend a top 5 pick for good games. We need great games. Look, at least he's in this offense. He's still getting the targets. Again, I'm not saying bench CD Lamb, not at all. You'd have to be absolutely stacked at wide receiver to bench CD Lamb right now, but just understand, you may not get the CD Lamb you drafted. And real quick, before I get to the rest of the names on this list, if you're enjoying the video, take 1 second, hit that like button, and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it. And another name I just did not think was going to be on the panic list this year, and I think he's probably been on the panic list a couple times, is Saquon Barkley. Again, Saquon Barkley has been good, but we've only gotten one game of over 20 fantasy points all year. He's given us kind of a floor, right? We're getting double-digit points here, but not anything better than that. And again, that's not what we drafted Saquon Barkley for. This is another guy who was a top 5, top 6 pick in fantasy. You don't want 12, 13, 14 fantasy points every week. That is not what you want from what should be your stud RB1. And really what's keeping him afloat here is pass catching because the Eagles cannot run the ball this year. Their offensive line is decimated. Lane Johnson, one of the best offensive linemen in football, has a serious injury right now. Who knows when he's coming back? This is hurting Saquon Barkley. Even when the Eagles are winning, they are abandoning the run. Even this week against the Cowboys, yes, they lost that game, but they were winning and in control for most of this game. They just abandoned the run here. They just don't run the football. They just continue to throw because, unlike last year, they can't run the football. Last year, they were running juggernaut. This year, the running game looks horrible. That interior offensive line looks terrible. And that is hurting Saquon Barkley. So, again, there's not much you can do here. I don't think we should consider Saquon Barkley like a RB1. I mean, we haven't considered Saquon Barkley like a must-start RB1 for weeks now, but I'm going to put him down more just kind of like a volume-based RB2 at this point. And oh, do I miss the days when Rome Odunze looked like a year 2 breakout, league-winning wide receiver. Now he just looks like a boom-bust wide receiver who's doing way more busting than booming these days. This is now 4 of the last 6 games where he's had less than 10 PPR points. This was supposed to be a good week for him against the Steelers, who play a ton of man, a ton of single high. Those are the defenses, the coverage shells that he usually dominates. He did not dominate them. Instead, DJ Moore did. Really? DJ Moore? Come on, man. But look, Rome Odunze, again, it's just been very boom-bust recently. After that first month where he looked like a league winner, very boom-bust with way more busting than booming. I really don't know what to say here for Rome Odunze. It's just kind of you got to try to pick your spots, I guess, and think, is this a good Rome Odunze week? And then even then, how do you really know if it's going to be a good Rome Odunze week or not? Because we thought this would be a good Rome Odunze week. But he does at least bring that upside every week. So, you probably can't bench him unless, again, you're really deep at wide receiver. But probably have to just consider him more like a upside wide receiver 3 rest of the season. And real quick, I got to talk about the Vikings offense here. I mean, pretty much anybody in this Vikings offense is dust for fantasy. JJ McCarthy is an absolute train wreck. Absolutely terrible here. And I don't think backup Max Brosmer, whatever his name, I don't think he's the solution here. JJ McCarthy tanking a Kevin O'Connell offense is absolutely incredible. Kevin O'Connell has had top 10 offenses every year he's been the head coach in Minnesota until JJ McCarthy started games. So you can't feel good about Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, whoever. Name them. You can't feel good. If you drafted Justin Jefferson in the first round, I hate to tell you, but you probably drafted a bust. And now these next 2 names, I was a little hesitant to put them on here because I'm not sure I'm panicking about them. It's just more maybe I'm nervous about them. And we'll start with Javonte Williams. After the first month of the season, looking like a league winner, an RB1 for fantasy. Definitely has slowed down over the stretch here. He's only got 1 20-point game since week 5, and he's only gone over 15 points twice over that stretch. But he is still giving you a high floor every single week. He's still the workhorse running back in a very good Dallas offense, so you can't be too worried here. Not to mention, where'd you draft this guy? Round 9, round 10? The fact that you got a stud RB1 for as long as you did is just bonus. But if you expected him to continue that all season, carry to a fantasy championship, yeah, maybe that's not going to happen this year. But even still, he's still got to be considered a high-end RB2 rest of the way here. So again, I'm not panicked on Javonte per se. I'm just kind of getting to the point where I'm like, all right, maybe it's time to view him a little bit differently going forward. And if you would have told me before the game this week that TreVeyon Henderson was going to have 21 total touches against the Bengals, I would have been like, smash city, baby. He smashed them. Nope, he didn't smash them. And it wasn't because of Ramondre Stevenson, okay? Like, Ramondre Stevenson, I think, got like 7 touches this entire game. Yeah, Ramondre got a goal line carry or 2. Terrell Jennings did, but so did TreVeyon Henderson. Like, he had his chances as well here. It's just the efficiency. The efficiency has not been there recently, and I don't know why. Maybe it's the offensive line. I mean, we've seen him have those explosives, those big runs, those big catches. But when he doesn't have that, this is what you get. You just get a lot of touches without a lot of yardage. So I don't want to completely panic here, because it's not like Ramondre came in and was the 1A or even was close to even being in a split or anything. This is clearly TreVeyon Henderson as the lead running back, and he's got a great rest of the season schedule. But man, we need some efficiency here. We can't just live off of big plays every single week. And I don't want to jump the gun here, but we may have seen a shift in Chicago. Look, DeAndre Swift fumbled in this Week 12 game, and we saw a massive shift after the fumble. According to Jacob Gibbs, at the time DeAndre Swift's Week 12 fumble, Swift 61% of the snaps, Monangai 39%. Swift 6 rushes, Monangai 3. Then after the fumble, that flipped 63%, 35% snaps, Monangai to Swift. 9-2 the carries for Monangai, and Monangai outsnapped him 5-1 in the red zone. Monangai got the touchdown this week. Look, Swift had felt like a guy all year. Like, you could just put him in your lineup and feel very safe about him, like a solid RB2. Got to start getting a little nervous here, because we even saw before this, Monangai was starting to come on a little bit. And if they're really worried about DeAndre Swift here, and look, Monangai looked good this week in his opportunities, maybe we do start to see more Monangai down the stretch here. So I think if you got DeAndre Swift, you got to be getting a little nervous right now. Obviously, it's too soon to fully panic, but if we see this trend continue next week, yes, then we are definitely panicking. And I don't even know what's happened to David Montgomery's opportunities. 5 carries in this game after Dan Campbell this week said, we got to get David Montgomery more involved. This is how you get him more involved. Now, I realize the Lions were somehow losing this game, which is like, come on, you're at home losing to Jameis Winston and the Giants. The football's crazy, right? Football's just crazy. But even still, only 5 carries. Meanwhile, Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, he's an absolute superstar. There's no question about it. Like, why give Montgomery the ball? When you got Jahmyr Gibbs, why give Montgomery the ball? I just don't think Montgomery's going to be a thing this year. He's had like 2 good games, and that's pretty much it. So Montgomery, I don't even care the matchup anymore. Like, maybe the Bengals, I could take a chance, but I don't think they play the Bengals. Yeah, you just can't start David Montgomery anymore this year. And Jameson Williams, oh yeah, Jameson Williams. This is Jameson Williams, I remember, the guy who sucks us in, says, here I am. It's changed, right? Dan Campbell calling the plays. I'm getting more involved. I got a great matchup against the Giants. And he does absolutely nothing. Completely disappears for your fantasy team. Just when we thought we could trust Jameson Williams, nope, we cannot trust Jameson Williams. All right, there you go. Those are the players I am panicking about heading into Week 12. And like Jameson Williams, I am going to disappear now. Forget it.